Hello, everyone. You're listening to the Manson podcast, a podcast dedicated to the icon Marilyn Manson. I am your co host, Alex Sinclair.
And I am your other co host, Jenna Arkansas.
Welcome to episode 3, where we are going to celebrate and do a deep dive into Manson's new album, One Assassination Under God, CHAPT.1, which was released on November 22nd, 2024. So buckle up for the ride because we have a lot to discuss. We just want to take this time to congratulate Marilyn Manson on his 12th studio album because it is doing great on the charts.
All the charts.
All the variants have been selling out. People have been having hard times trying to find it in stores because it's sold out. It's been doing very well. Nuclear Blast has done a great job with promoting it.
Nuclear Blast deserves a lot of credit for really promoting the album so well. It is sponsored on so many platforms, which I think is amazing because previous, companies have not promoted well. So fuck yeah, Nuclear Blast. Amazing.
Yeah, they were making like daily posts about Manson's album coming out, and they're still doing posts.
They're still doing it and then promoting the videos too, which I think is great. I mean, just from previous episode, we know that videos are a dying art, but I mean, especially with the newest one, that deserves to get a lot of recognition out there. So it being kind of just blasted everywhere, that's amazing.
So Jenna, when you first listened to the album, me and you actually kind of listened to it together, but from afar, because you're obviously in Arkansas and I'm in Florida. We waited until midnight, and it was midnight my time and then 11 p.m. your time because you're an hour behind me, right?
Yes.
I love the album. I'm just going to come out and say that. I'm not going to hide my feelings or make it sound like, I have mixed feelings. I love the album. And I'm starting this podcast off saying that I love the album. There's a lot of different layers going on, and we're going to get all into that. So I'm not being a try-hard fan and loving everything that he comes out with because there are definitely some albums I don't feel so strongly about, which is normal for everyone, I believe. But this album I really feel strongly about.
I agree. I think every album is special in its own right. And there are obviously albums that have a little bit more meaning, obviously, to everybody. And I think it all kind of comes back to when in your life you discovered Manson. Because I can definitely say, starting the podcast and talking to so many people, I've realized that people have discovered Manson at completely different times, whereas I can be like, my goodness, this person has only listened to Manson for like 5 years, but in their own right, that's amazing. If you only found him 5 years ago, if you only found him, I don't know, this year, cool. What a year to find him. This album could mean to somebody else, this could be like, life changing for somebody else. But living through Hollywood coming out, when he had a whole lot to say, this is the second time that he's got a whole lot to say. And this is only CHAPT.1. So I don't know. I'm not gonna beat around the bush. Like, it's a fucking phenomenal album. I'm not gonna say you're wrong if you don't agree, but you're wrong.
So on the Facebook group, the Marilyn Manson cult, there are a lot of fans that are disagreeing and that are saying that they do not like the album because it's not hard enough and it's not this enough and it's not that enough. And I'm actually shocked at those reactions. I do know where they're coming from. I think it's coming from a lot of people that are chasing this Antichrist superstar sound and imagery, and it's just not going to happen. And it's funny because he comes out with Front Toward Enemy that's very Antichrist sounding. And then people are like, oh, well, it sounds too much like Little Horn. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, what is going to make you guys happy? So, I mean, this just goes out to any album that anyone puts out. There's always going to be people that don't like it, that like it. However, I am shocked a little bit how some fans have voiced how much they dislike it, and I'm very confused by that because I feel like every album he puts out, there's songs that you can pick apart here and there, or, some albums are stronger than others, et cetera, et cetera. That's how everyone's career is, not just his. But with this album, I just feel like there's no room for error, in my opinion. And that's my opinion. So I'm sorry if I offend anyone. I mean, that this is my opinion. So there you go.
Mhm. I will just put it out there, from the time that I've discovered Manson until now, there's not an album that, you know, now I haven't listened to over and over and over and over and have appreciation for. And obviously, I have mad love for certain albums more than others. And I think that goes for, any band that you like. If it's your be all end all, you have to appreciate the whole body of work. It might not all be what you want it to be every album that comes around, but band members change, so that means the sound is going to change and there's going to be different influences for things.
Let's get into the new band lineup because there are definitely some new faces to Manson's band. And this record, for people that are not aware, which I'm sure most are, but just in case you're not, this was written by Manson and Tyler Bates. And Tyler Bates also worked with Manson on Pale Emperor and Heaven Upside Down. And then they had a really bad falling out. I think from what Manson has come out and said, and I think even Tyler kind of came out and said the same thing. It was really bad. I don't remember the specifics on it, and I don't really think that's important anymore because they are together now and they've made amends now. And they put out this amazing record. And of course, he's going to be a part of chapter 2. So, the main people that are playing live instruments on this album are Tyler Bates and Gil Sharon. But then the live band that everyone sees has Tyler, Gil, Piggy D, and Reba. Do you want to get into the new band members?
I think by now everybody should be somewhat familiar with Tyler Bates's extreme catalog of work. There were some on here that I didn't even know, but kind of was just deep diving. But, he does a lot of film scores. He worked on The Watchmen. I had no idea that he worked on Rob Zombie's Halloween and Halloween 2. And then he also worked on Devil's Rejects. Had no clue on that. But he worked on Grindhouse, 300, but where Manson was involved, he was on John Wick and Atomic Blonde. Had no clue he was on Pearl, which is kind of cool. But he's been on several television scores, which we know he was on the one with Manson for Salem. A lot of video game soundtracks.
His work is just so extensive. Like, I don't think we even have time to get into all of his work. I think what he's best known for is his work for the Guardians of the Galaxy,
Yes,
right? Did he win an award?
I believe so.
I think he did.
Yeah, and then I didn't know that he worked with Jerry Cantrell. Tyler knows no bounds. So maybe we'll call him that. Tyler No Bounds Bait.
All right, so who else we got?
Okay, so everybody should be very acquainted with Gil. Gil was in Dillinger Escape Plan. He played for 2 years with them, and then he left to work on Stolen Babies, which his twin brother is also in that band. He also appears on Pussifers. V is for vagina. Also, he played with Team Sleep with Chino Marino.
Oh, wow.
Anybody's out there that is also a Chino Marino fan, you'll see sometimes that Chino is at Manson shows because he's there to see Gil. He joined Manson in 2013, he left in 2019, but obviously he's back now. Okay, but something that I did not know about Gil and I found while I was deep diving, and if you know me even a little bit, which obviously these listeners don't know me like that well or anything, but me loving this dumbass TV show from the time I was a kid and finding this today about broke my neck trying to get in there to tell my husband. But anyways, Gil and his twin brother appeared in an episode of fucking Full House as the teenage Nikki and Alex. And I went and found it today, and I knew exactly which one it was when it appeared, but it's so funny to know that that is Gil and his brother playing those twin boys with John Stamos. It is kind of hilarious. Anybody that wants to see that, message me. I'll send you the clip. Okay, so Piggy D, or as Manson introduces him, Matthew Montgomery. I think everybody knows Piggy, surely. I mean, you either know him, I feel like, from Wednesday 13, or you know him from Rob Zombie. He was originally in a band called Amen. He was with Bob Zombie for 18 years. That ended in January. Remember, I was speculating that he was going to join Manson, but I don't remember when that was. I know we talked about it at the beginning of the year somewhere.
I think it's when Manson started following Piggy on Instagram,
Probably.
or Piggy followed Man. It's one or the other.
Let's see, what's her name? Ash Costello from New Year's Day. They have a band together called the Haxons.
Oh, I didn't know he was in that.
Yeah, that's him and Ash. But yeah, I mean, I figured everybody would know him mainly from Rob Zombie. Reba Myers was from Code Orange. Code Orange was originally Code Orange Kids. She's like 31 now. Everybody always calls Code Orange now. I think they changed it in like 2014. I think it was. But I've always known it as Code Orange Kids. But I mean, they literally started when they were kids, and they initially started as like very like hardcore punk band, but then they kind of like transition to kind of metalcore. You can hear all of the different influences though from grunge and new metal and industrial, but I did not know that they did a song with Billy Corgan, Take Shape, which we all know Billy Corgan is from Smashing Pumpkins and Manson is friends with Billy Corgan. Maybe that's where that transpired, who knows? But Reba's a badass though.
She is. I mean, we got to see her live. Yeah, we both saw her twice this year, and she was great. So Manson had a huge festival show in Guadalupe, Mexico on November 30th, 2024. It was called the Machaca Festival, and this was his first time back in Mexico in 21 years. And it was sold out, and we have been seeing a lot of pictures and videos coming through of the show, and it just looked incredible. I mean, the crowd was huge, and the fans were just so passionate. South American fans are a different kind of fans. They're just very energetic and very, very, very passionate.
I think most of the pictures that I have seen just online posted, it's very clear people were showing up for Manson. They were there and they were there to show who the fuck they were there for, which is amazing. I love when people show up for a Manson show and they're there to let you know that that's who they're there for.
Yeah, so we want to congratulate Manson on that festival show because, like I said, he hasn't been back in Mexico in like 21 years. So this was his first time back. It was sold out. He was not headlining, but he was the second to last act. Limp Bizkit was actually headlining, but like Jenna said, you could tell most of the crowd was there for Manson. So, Jenna, what do you think the theme of One Assassination Under God Chapter 1 is about? What do you think the main themes are going on here?
Redemption for sure. There's so many layers on here.
Yeah, I think you're on the right track, though. I think redemption, I think loss, I think revenge a little bit.
Mhm. Self-reflection. This album is like an onion. There's gonna be a lot of layers in here.
So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go through each track and just say either how we feel about that song and maybe recite some lyrics from that song and what we think it means. Well, we're gonna go through each song and we're gonna try to keep it short and sweet because there's a lot going on in each song. So there's a lot of different symbolisms, there's a lot of different connotations. But I want to start this section with Manson's first statement about his album, and he released it on his Instagram and I believe Twitter as well. He says, "One Assassination Under God Chapter 1 is the first half of my story. These songs were conjured from purgatory and are raw as a row of broken teeth that slightly resemble a smile." My art is what I live for. This album means to me exactly what I choose it to mean. I hope when you listen, it is the same for you. So, like I just said, we're going to go through what we think the songs mean and what we think some lyrics mean. It's not the end all be all. Art is obviously subjective. You might feel a different way than we do. So, One Assassination Under God is the first song, and it was a surprise to, I think, all of us that the video premiered the day of the release of the album. I don't think any of us were expecting that because he already did 3 singles and 3 music videos. We didn't expect him to do a 4th. I was gonna say it might be my favorite video. I think it might be. So in One Assassination Under God, obviously the lyrics are insane and the symbolism and the music video and all that. But what obviously got me, I'm sure it got you, was that scream of assassination.
I just have not heard that scream in so long, and where it comes out in this song, it sounds like a lot of frustration being let out, but in the healthy way.
That was literally bone chilling. I was just stopped in my tracks when I heard that. You can hear the pain, the frustration. You can hear it all in that. That's just such a raw scream. Like you said, I mean, we haven't heard a scream like that in years. It just had so much emotion behind it.
I did see a few people online talking about how they thought his voice was so different on this album, or that it was auto-tuned or whatever. But if you didn't see him live this previous tour, just take our word for it. The man's voice is unreal live.
I am really sick and tired of people saying his voice sounds different, doesn't sound the same, it's too high. I don't understand what you guys are looking for. I mean, I think his voice sounds amazing. It is a little bit higher. He's taken lessons. He's bettered himself. He is also sober. I have explained this before. When you're drunk and high, you ruin your vocal cords. And not only that, but if you're in a constant state of high or drunk, your voice is going to get lower. So people saying, "Oh my god, the auto tune," and "Oh my god, this and that." His voice is different because he's choosing for it to be different, and he's taking vocal lessons. The first reaction to it is like, "Wow, yeah, his voice is a lot higher than usual." But other than that, I mean, get over it, right? Am I wrong?
There's always been some kind of effects on songs. I guess I'm just not really hearing what people are hearing in the voice situation. I'm not hearing it.
He's hitting notes that he doesn't usually hit, and it's like, how can you How can you talk bad about not talk bad about it, but how can you critique that or criticize that? Some people really are just stuck in this antichrist era that was literally almost 30 years ago. I mean, this era was almost 30 years ago, guys. And it's just not going to happen again. He has proved it over and over again that he's going to keep evolving and getting better and different and go in different directions. And if you're not gonna grow with him and you're not going to get where he's coming from, or you're not gonna accept his new sound, as in his voice, then I don't really know what to tell you. You know it's Manson when you hear it. It's not like he turned into Mariah Carey.
At the end of the day, some people just cannot be pleased. It do what it be. Hopefully, everybody realized that the album came out and the video came out the same day as the JFK assassination anniversary. There's a lot in this one, but the pull back the curtain, I feel, was kind of a thing about people exposing his private life and him kind of being on display for cancel culture to see in a way, or that's the way I took it. But again, that's my opinion. Just because Manson has kind of been private about his personal life and then it just kind of got exposed. You will always be entertained. Everyone always has something or their own take on him, and everybody showed up for the execution but wouldn't show their face. I feel like he had a lot of friends that just kind of left him in the dirt. Probably didn't say anything to him, just kind of left him there. Anyone that took part of trying to cancel him, and he probably thought those are his friends and would stand by him, but didn't. The only other notes that I had on there, the put me inside the animal, stitch it up, and shove us off a cliff. I don't know why, but for some reason, I went to Midsummer thinking like this is the end of his life. And in Midsummer, it was like those people, that's the end of their life, and it's like, all right, it's time for you to go off a cliff. Not saying that's what it's about, but for some reason, that's where my mind went. I don't know why.
That makes sense. If you've seen the movie Midsummer, it makes sense.
But the only other thing that I took away was when they tear the wings from all the swine, just monkeys will be left to fly. Flying monkeys, everybody should think of Wizard of Oz. I don't know. That might not be a reference, but, it could be the Wicked Witch of the West and her flying monkeys. I don't know. But maybe, maybe. And that's my opinion. I'm sticking to it.
So, okay, I'm only going to comment on really the chorus because I think this is very important. So, I'm going to start with everybody showed up for the execution, but nobody would show their face. I do believe that that has to do with some of his friends, but I also feel like that has to do with some of the accusers because in the beginning, they were all pointing their fingers so hard at him, but most of them trickled down and they didn't show up for court hearings or depositions or they took back their statements and that was not showing their face. They didn't follow through with what they were accusing him of. I think that has a lot to do with it. And then I think one of the most important parts is to shoot you in the back of the head and call it sacrifice. So I'm a huge crime buff. I love watching true crime and crime documentaries and all that. I think in another life, I would love to be a detective because not a lot gets by me. Usually, when someone is shot in the back of the head, that means it is not in self defense. That means that they did that in cold blood. They did that on purpose, and that was not done in self-defense. Because if it was self-defense, it would be, in front of in front of the body. That is obviously what these accusers did. They said it was self-defense, but it obviously was not because we all know how this kind of panned out. They don't even deserve to say your name because Manson is just so disgusted with how they treated him that they don't even deserve to say his name, which I completely agree with. They don't even deserve to be within his existence at all, in my opinion, because they really did him wrong. That's all I have to say about that. All right, so let's move on to No Funeral Without Applause. Do you want to go first, Miss Jen?
Somebody pointed out that the beginning sounds similar to Heart Shaped Box by Nirvana. And I do have to say, I went back and listened to it. I am a big old Nirvana nerd. It kind of does. Or I see that. I think we talked about this. It definitely has like a sweet dreams kind of undertone to it. Just the little piano parts. And to me, lyrically, I don't know why I go here, but it's kind of reminiscent of Four Rusted Horses,
Okay.
because in Four Rusted Horses, he says, everyone will come to my funeral to make sure that I stay dead. Okay, so the other thing that I took away was when he says just a little cut, the way that he says just. I really thought he was about to say just a boy, just a little fucking boy that is in Snake Eyes for Sissies from Portrait of American Family. That was something that me and my husband both were like, that sounds like Portrait.
I think No Funeral Without Applause, I think it sounds very Hollywood. Like I feel like it could easily be put on that record. And what I took away from that lyrically, you can send away your firing squad. You're gonna have to behead me. Immoral, looking to be immortal, but nothing fits to a T. There is some wordplay in there, which is great because he's taking the T out of immortal for immoral and he's basically saying that he's been shot at before, which is we've discussed, and everybody who's a Manson fan knows. He has been shot at before, it didn't work, and in order to really cancel him and kill him, you're gonna have to fucking behead him. Because either do that or it's just not gonna work because he has been literally through everything. So that's what I'm taking away from that song. Okay, so let's get into the Antichrist crew favorite. which is not if you understand. Jenna, do you wanna start that off?
Yeah, I mean, it is very reminiscent of some or Antichrist Superstar for sure. I think initially though, when I listened to it, I thought it was very punk, very like early like Portrait of American Family kind of vibes, but the screaming aspect of it is very Antichrist Superstar. So my thing was him kind of saying, "You wanted to build this narrative of me. Now I'm not going to repent for shit because I was sent here to set the record straight. All this shit can come crumbling down like a bomb in a building."
I have similar notes. Definitely pain is the language that was spoken to me. I feel like that is what everyone has been saying about him these last couple years. And now it's his time to shine pretty much. It's his time to make people look in the mirror, which I think is a huge aspect. Everything that he's gone through is like all these people that have said stuff media wise, accusers, etc. They all need to look in the mirror, and they are literally the people that should be ashamed because they have just gotten this so wrong. I mean, it's a very strong song. It's very antichrist, like I said. I think if this was to be performed live, people would probably lose their minds because it's a very strong song. All right, now let's go to his first single, As Sick as the Secrets Within. I'll start with, now, Jenna, you might have something similar to me, but the lyrics that spoke out to me the most for this is, "I was never your taxidermy. I'm sewn into your soul. Keep sleeping. I'll make you dream of me." So, what I think that means, or at least my opinion is, he's not some dead prize hanging on someone's wall. He's more than that. And when he says, "Keep sleeping. I'll make you dream of me." When I first heard that, I thought that was a stab to everyone that has wronged him and that obviously they have him a lot on the mind because they constantly want to talk about him and start shit about him. So he's basically saying, "Keep sleeping, I'll make you dream of me," as, kind of like a fuck you. But then I also read somebody in the cult said that when you're battling addiction and you're getting sober, that sometimes you dream of getting high or drunk. So that could be his addiction talking. So I don't know. Nobody knows.
Absolutely. Again, what does he say? It means to me exactly what I want it to be. The sobriety aspect of this whole thing, just kind of realizing what his life had become and then what it got violently shoved into is a whole lot. But definitely the I was never your taxidermy. Taxidermy for hunters is definitely like a trophy,
Mhm.
and you want your trophies. The I'm sewn into your soul, no matter how much you try to destroy or try to blink him out, he's still gonna be there. He's still gonna be there. So even if you had got the trophy, he still was gonna be a part of you. And the keep sleeping, I'll make you dream of me. I mean, that can mean quite a few things, but I think that again, even if you had got the trophy, he's still gonna be around. He's still gonna be in your dreams.
Also, "Keep sleeping, I'll make you dream of me." That could also be a fuck you to the haters. I know I said something similar earlier, but that could be, "Keep doubting me, and I'm gonna make you see." So, it can mean a million different things. That's the thing with this album is it's so layered and it's so symbolic. So, and I'm glad he put out the statement that he did because, like, just listen to us talking, like, we don't even know.
If there's anything we can say about this album is that it invokes a lot of thoughts and feeling.
Yes. Okay, so let's move on to Sacrilegious. I love this song. I know a lot of fans were kind of meh about the song, but I love this song. This is the Oasis song.
This is definitely the Oasis song that is not an Oasis song.
What I took away from this is, "Are you here for the resurrection? How deep did you dig my grave? Cancel your subscription. You're the one that needs to be saved." I mean, obviously it's to the accusers, but I also think this is directly to Rolling Stone. Because Rolling Stone did his ass so dirty, and I'm not gonna get into it because this isn't the podcast for that, but I think that they were in cahoots big time with what do we call her? The evil witch of the West? Let's just call her that.
What did I what did I say? Those we shall not name.
But so I think he knows that, and I think that this is a huge dig to Rolling Stone because cancel your subscription, you're the ones that need to be saved. I mean, Rolling Stone has been going downhill for like the last 20 years. They've been really bad. They've not been doing well. So I think that's a complete dig to the media and especially Rolling Stone.
That can also be subscribing to, stuff on social media. The only thing that I was going to say initially listening to that, I thought that it sounded like the Oasis song, "The Importance of Being Idle."
All right, so let's move into Death is Not a Costume. This is, I think, my favorite song on the whole album. Well, one of them. So, Death is Not a Costume is very kind of new wave in the beginning, and I really kind of dig that because I'm a huge new wave fan. But I also know that this song is bringing a lot of questions to a lot of fans because they don't know who he's talking about in the chorus. And me and you have even talked about it. Like we just said, this is so subjective. I don't think we'll ever really know. I don't think Manson's ever going to sit down and explain each song. But the chorus is I'm the one that you left behind. Wish I knew you when you were alive. It's not a costume. It's not how I wanted to die. It's not a costume. It's not how I wanted to die. The one part that I am sure about is saying that it's not a costume, it's not how I wanted to die. What I think about that is he's saying his persona is not a costume, that's who he really is. That's who he has become, and it's not how he wanted to die. He didn't wanna die thinking that people thought that that was a costume. That's what I think, but the part that is puzzling a lot of people is, "I'm the one that you left behind, wish I knew you when you were alive." Who is he talking about? Who left him behind? Who does he wish was alive? We don't know. We're not gonna know.
No, we're not gonna know.
If you came here for answers for that, you're not gonna get them. So sorry.
Spoiler alert, we do not know who he's talking about in the chorus.
So I mean, it could be himself.
The things that I thought about this is at the very beginning. I know somebody was saying, what's the voice saying at the beginning?" I have no idea. I listened 1,000 times trying to see if I could hear what it was. I cannot, but the beginning is very the untitled track of the last song on Antichrist. I went there, and then the very end of Target Audience when it's like, "The president is dead. Let us pray."
That was actually really good. I read that somebody said that too, and I went back and I listened to it. And to me, it does sound like it's saying something, but at the same time, nothing at all. It just
Mhm.
sounds like some kind of effect or something. So I'm not sure about that. But anyways, go ahead, Jenna.
I feel like it's a very personal song to him, but I said that, I feel like this might be a song to himself. And the old Manson, kind of what you were saying, like his old persona. This is not how I wanted my persona to be. Um, like he wanted so much more. And the line, "I'll break your sunshine to scare my shadow away." That can be about himself. Like he'll do what he has to do to persevere.
All right, so let's move on to the next song, Meet Me in Purgatory. Now, this is also a pretty new wavy song to me. I feel like it sounds very new wave. Jenna, do you want to talk about what you think about it?
I think my biggest thing upon first listening to it, I literally thought I was listening to the beginning of Slow Motion, and then it really does kind of go into sounding like No Reflection. This was the Born Villain song to me for some reason.
All right, yeah. And I also think that this song is very much to Lindsay, his wife. If they cast me out, I want you to come with me. We can be one in endless oblivion. Are you going to pray for me when I'm in purgatory or just stare through the stained glass at my body lying there? And then he talks about something about where will you be or what will you do when they come to murder me. That's definitely to Lindsay. He's wondering how loyal that she's going to be for him. And I think it's pretty clear that she is extremely loyal to him since she's stood by him through all of this madness. And she's like his biggest fan and is extremely supportive. But this is definitely, I think, dedicated to Lindsay.
I think we should all have a Wayne's World moment of bowing down to Lindsay's feet because bless that woman.
Next song, Raise the Red Flag. This is obviously the revenge fuck you that we've all been waiting for.
Was a good follow up from As Sick as the Secrets Within as a single.
Yes, my favorite lyrics are, I don't give a fuck if you say you're sorry, I won't accept your surrender. I mean, that kind of goes without saying. He's saying F you to the accusers. I don't care if you say you're sorry because some of them came out apologizing.
Mhm.
I love the chorus. It's time to beat up the bullies and watch the bullseye off my back. My red flag is your white one soaked in blood. I hope everybody does know that a white flag does mean surrender. When somebody waves a white flag, that means they're surrendering. So he's saying even their flag that means surrender is soaked in blood. And I think by blood, he means wrongdoing, lies, all of the above.
You've got blood on your hands, except in this case, you've got blood on your surrendering white flag.
Yes. And then it's time to beat up the bullies and watch the bullseye off my back. I mean, he's had a bullseye on the back since he began. So he's over it. He's over the hate. He's over the wrongdoing from the media. You know, he's fighting back. Okay, so let's get to Sacrifice of the Mass. I probably have the most to say about this, which I'm sure you do too, Jenna. And I also want to just describe what the Sacrifice of the Mass is so people know if in case if you don't know. Sacrifice of the Mass is a Catholicism term, and it's for the Eucharist. It's the body and blood of Christ. It's a Catholic belief that the Mass is a memorial of Christ's sacrifice on the cross and a way to apply Christ's work to the present day. The benefit of the Mass brings forgiveness for sins, accomplishes redemption, and brings graces for the living and the dead. And now that you guys know that definition of that, it's pretty clear what this song is about. I think it's about forgiveness or wanting some kind of forgiveness. Obviously, death. I know when I first heard it, I was just speechless after I heard this song. I definitely cried because I lost both of my parents at a very young age. Not a very young age, but I was 35. So, and it shouldn't have happened. It's just so unfair. So, I know where he's coming from with some of these lyrics, and I know Jenna, you do too. So, Jenna, you want to chime in here? I know this is a hard one.
This one is the one that made me cry, regardless of, whatever is being compared here. This one hurts as much to listen to as Man That You Fear. Very personal. Like, very, very personal. And there's a lot in this. I kind of felt like that was him talking about Barbara and Hugh, and it might not be, towards the end. That might not be. He could be talking about Mary and Jesus. It's a doozy. I lost it when he said that he could hear his mother calling. That is so rough to listen to. But I know some people definitely. We're talking about Oppenheimer. Did you see that?
I have not seen the movie. I've seen that he does kind of take a quote directly from that movie.
I'm not gonna say that he completely ripped it by any means. I see where people are comparing them. The greater the star, the more violent its demise. And there's a part in Oppenheimer where they say, do stars die? And Oppenheimer says, well, if they do, they'd cool, they collapse, and in fact, the bigger the star, the more violent its demise. So that is pretty close. And obviously, there's quite a bit to unpack just in that. That could mean several things. I see that. And then there was another comparison of that of when we lifted the stone, we should have known we'd be bitten by the snake below. Bar, he says, like, you can lift a stone without being ready for the snake that's revealed.
What I took from that, because I didn't see that movie, is the bigger the celebrity, the more violent its demise. That's what I thought he was talking about. I know when he says, "When you pray, you cannot lie." I think that is that a Mark Twain?
That's out of Huckleberry Finn.
That's a Huckleberry Finn quote. But not being super familiar with Huckleberry Finn, I take away from that. You know, when you pray, you can't lie. I mean, that's counterproductive. Something else I want to point out is I just gave for the sake of taking, now God will swallow me. And like I said, what the definition is redemption. I don't think he's asking forgiveness from God. He's becoming aware of some of his mistakes and he's saying that now God is going to punish him. And I mean, this song is woof, it has just a lot of religious symbolism in here. And at the end, when he says, "The blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb, they're waiting with open arms for me to join them soon." He's obviously talking about his parents, but the blood of the covenant has to do with Jesus Christ. And he's basically saying that Jesus is stronger than life itself, and that when it's time, and that's it. It's not up to whoever is left to keep him here, and that his parents are waiting for him with open arms. So that's what I take from that. And also, a lot of people, when they first heard the song, were very concerned about Manson and they were saying, "We're worried about him. We hope that he's okay, yada, yada, yada. I hope he's, not planning to die." But Manson is not planning to die. I think people who haven't lost their parents or anyone super, super, super close to them are not going to understand where he's coming from in the song because I was super close with my parents and you don't think about death like, "Oh, I wanna die because I wanna see my parents," but the threat of death, it's not such a burden anymore because it's like, my parents are waiting for me, and it would be nice to see them. So it's not like we wanna die, but it's like the threat of death is just not as significant. When he says, "I can hear my mother's voice, it's time for me to say goodbye." I mean, if I heard my mother's voice right now, I mean, I'm gonna try not to I'm gonna try not to cry. I can't believe this is actually happening.
Ah, why'd you do that? Now I'm crying.
I mean, if I know that if I heard my mother's voice right now, like, I would be like, "Okay, bye, guys, like, I'm done." Like, because I wanna be with my mom. But, we're not trying to kill ourselves or something. That's not what we're trying to say. It's just, death is a little bit more of a comforting feeling because you wanna see them again.
I think as close as what Manson was to his parents, and they were so unbelievably supportive of him, and especially him going through everything that he has went through the past 3.5, 4 years. He didn't have either of his parents. And, sometimes you just want your mama, you know?
Exactly. And so at the end, it says, I think my favorite lyrics out of the whole entire album is "Mother can't mourn me, father won't win my fights." Because that's exactly how I feel sometimes. It's like my mom is not going to be here for my mistakes. My mom's not going to be able to comfort me anymore. And, my father can't stick up for me anymore. That hit me really, really, really hard. Okay. I'm done talking. I'm done. All right. So, any final thoughts, Jen?
Well, anyway, Sacrifice of the Mass, like, really messed me and Alex up because we were both crying as we were texting each other while we were listening to this. I mean, I will say it, that is my favorite song on the album, but again, to me, it evokes as much feelings as what Man That You Fear does to me, but Man That You Fear is my favorite off of Antichrist Superstar. If you have read Mark Twain's Huckleberry Finn, which it's been some years, like some years and years since I have read that. I had to go back and like make sure that I was remembering it correctly because I have a really bad tendency of speed reading things and then being like, "Oh shit, I remembered that wrong." But that quote appears in the book, and Huckleberry is pressured to write a letter to authorities about an escaped slave. He realizes that praying requires truthfulness. And he says, "Deep down in me, I knowed it was a lie. You can't pray a lie. I found that out." There's a whole lot to unpack in there. I mean, I ain't even gonna go there about writing the letter to authorities, but that definitely could be a part of that.
So, I would say my favorite songs on this album, I can't pick one. I mean, it's such a great album. Like I said, I can't pick one, but I'm gonna do two. I'm gonna say "The Sacrifice of the Mass" and "Death Is Not a Costume." What about you?
Sacrifice of the Mass, I said that night that that was my favorite off of the album for obvious current reasons in my life. And again, just invoking those feelings the same way that Man That You Fear did. I mean, again, like there's no misses on these songs, but I think honestly the two that I have literally jammed the most has been Sacrifice of the Mass and One Assassination Under God.
It's really hard to narrow down. He really gave us a great body of work. A lot of people are like, it's too short, but it's because it's chapter one. It has been pretty much confirmed that it's only going to be two chapters. People were thinking it's going to be three or four. Manson said it's his first half in his statement. So that means there's only one other half. And Jenna noticed today, and I actually noticed it a little bit earlier, but she noticed if you really look at the album and you look at the cover, you can see that there's a painting underneath the painting that we all see. Either that or it's definitely a paper of some sort underneath. But I think it would be really cool if that chapter 2 would be a painting and that chapter 1 would be underneath that, and we'll be able to see that because we'll be able to tell. So we'll have to see about that. Everybody wants to try and guess and speculate when chapter 2 is going to come out. This is his first album in 4 years. Yes, it is short. It is 9 songs, but like I said, it's one half of 2. He has to promote this and let it percolate and let it do its thing before releasing a whole other album. I'm assuming it's gonna be another 9 songs, or it might be even shorter, I don't know, or it might be longer, I don't know. But you have to kind of give this time because he has to do the cycles, he has to tour it, you know what I mean? There's things this man has to do. He can't just do one album and then the next. I mean, I might eat my words, he might come out with this shit tomorrow, I don't know. I know people are excited and they're chomping at the bit. I get it, but you have to let this album do its thing. I think it would be unfair if he came out with a whole other part to this album without giving this first part justice. You know what I mean?
I think we should all just be stoked that we got a whole amazing album and that there's going to be a second one because that just means he is going to be around. We're going to probably get very extended amounts of touring, which Manson has never been afraid to tour. He has always been a touring man. I figure that there will be a tour for this album and then, whenever the second one comes out, that just means another tour. That means more merch. It's kind of like a chapter 1, here I am, chapter 2, I'm not going anywhere.
So this is another huge speculation, and people are chomping at the bit. When is Manson going to do another US tour?
That is the burning question.
I'm not going to name any names. I'm not going to do it. And don't ask me because I'm not going to tell you. But there is somebody that works very close to Manson that is leaving Easter eggs on his posts. And I just don't think he realizes he's doing it. But from what I'm picking up, and I'm not going to say the month either, because if I'm wrong, I don't want the mob coming after me. I don't want to get stoned here. I think it's going to be right after the European tour. Because the European tour is only in February. It's only like what, 10 or 11 dates, right?
Yeah.
I think it's going to be very shortly after that, which, if that is the case, then it's going to have to be released soon. I think any day. Jenna's treading lightly.
My whole thing is because the dates are completely sold out for Europe, which is amazing that everybody in Europe sold that out. But I would think, he would want a little downtime. And then, because the last date on there is February 23rd. So, yeah, if he announced, something shortly after that, I mean, that would make sense.
So, as most of you guys know, he does have a US tour date in May. It's May 18th at Daytona Beach, Florida. It's the festival Rockville. I will be there. I am so excited because he's playing with Korn, which is one of my favorite bands in the entire world. And I've never seen Manson and Korn together live, so I am so stoked. It is happening, guys. It's going to happen because that's happening. I don't know if he's gonna base it around that tour date or what have you, but it's happening. It's going to happen next year, I think it's gonna happen in the early half of next year. I'm not even gonna say the month that is being spewed around because, like I said, I don't want people getting mad at me if it doesn't happen. So just save your money. Start saving now. I really do think it's gonna be announced any day now. I just have a feeling it's gonna be released any day now because if it is in the first half of the year, you have to allot a certain amount of days before putting tickets on sale. So since we're talking about Manson live next year, what songs would you like to hear live from the new album, Jen?
I would really like to hear "Raise the Red Flag," which I think some people did get to hear it.
Yes, he did, and we heard it being sound checked in Chicago for his solo show, but he never played it, and I'm still really upset about that.
Yeah, he blue balled us.
I would love to hear Raise the Red Flag as well.
I would love to hear it. There are certain staple songs on all of the albums that, get put in rotation on the set list. Obviously, not all of the albums, but he would be touring for this. So I don't know. I feel like if we're trying to get the crowd going, I would say Raise the Red Flag. Obviously, As Sick as the Secrets Within has already been heavily played, but that and Not If You Understand, just for a little Antichrist energy from the crowd would be cool. I highly doubt that he would play Sacrifice of the Mass. A Girl Could Dream. I said that about Saturnalia, and he basically acapellaed that when I saw him in Tulsa, whatever fucking year that was. I never thought that I would hear that live, but you know what? I did.
So the songs that I would love to hear live from his new album is One Assassination Under God. I would love to hear Raise the Red Flag because I feel like that almost happened in Chicago and it didn't. And that would just be a badass song live. Not If You Understand would be great because, like you said, it would get the crowd going. I think it would be good for the Antichrist fans. As Sick as the Secrets Within is most likely going to be played because that's like you said, it's already heavily in rotation. And I would love. I mean, like you said, a girl can dream. I would love for him to close with Sacrifice of the Mass.
Could you imagine if we got double whammied and it was like, here you go. I'm going to give you Sacrifice of the Mass, and I'll give you Man That You Fear.
Oh, fuck you. I would die.
I would I would just be a puddle of a human.
He has such a huge catalog that it's almost impossible to rank this within his 12 albums, but let's do the last 3, which is Pale Emperor, Heaven Upside Down, We Are Chaos, and now One Assassination Under God, Chapter 1. Where would you put One Assassination Under God between those 3 albums?
1. I don't even have to think about that.
I think I'm gonna agree with you. I think it's his best work, definitely for these last couple years. So we might be having our first giveaway, and it was a pure mistake on my end. I ordered the wrong size of the Black Friday exclusive. It's limited to only 1,000, and it's the black on black long sleeve T-shirt. I think it's called the Black Ice Vinyl. I realized I made a huge mistake on the size of the shirt. It's a small. So what we're gonna end up doing is we're gonna end up doing a giveaway on that because I have another one coming of the correct size. We haven't come up with the terms yet of our giveaway, but just stay tuned to our social media or Instagram at Manson Podcast to have a chance to win that. It's only limited to 1,000. So this is kind of a rare thing and it's a total mistake on my end. So my loss is your gain. Definitely stay tuned to what our terms are because, like I said, we haven't come up with them yet. One Assassination Under God is now out for the world to consume. If you have not bought a copy, downloaded it, what have you, do it if you have not. Thank you for listening. I am Alex Sinclair. You can find me on Instagram at alex.sinclair.
And I'm Jenna Arkansas, and you can find me on Instagram at Jenna X Arkansas.
And you can also find our podcast on Instagram at Manson Podcast. Thank you all for listening, and we will see you on the next episode.